When you were asking before about questions like what would it look like, what would you ask, what would you say, I always feel like my answers aren't really very good enough because I'm trying to go into the part of my brain which reaches for what to do. And I do all day. But and where the paradoxical theory of change can land us, I think, is actually stop doing. Stop trying to do. Let go of these goals and techniques and come back to something sort of fundamentally needed in the world. Hold space for someone in their stuckness. Grieve with them in their stuckness. Be prepared to feel into and hold with them their anger and frustration. Like be fully present to someone in their struggle is maybe more important than having the clever answers, the techniques and the skills. And so I think there's something about people might feel like they need to create change, and yet often what is profound or what is touching or what moves them is feeling like they're seen. They're just simply held in someone's gaze, not necessarily understood, not necessarily fixed or changed, but just somehow held in a way that is alive and meaningful. It's not a dead pan, flat presence. It's a presence of the whole bringing one's whole body, and brain, and imagination, and everything to the task. So, yeah, and I think presence is it's so fundamental to this approach that I'm sure we could get better at articulating what it is. But I think it's the being with and not the doing to that I probably want to emphasize in this moment.
Because I remember you sharing the story of how you first came across Gestalt and how you experienced presence. Like, would you be happy to share a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think present is a time and space idea. There are practices and commitments that can help us be present in the here and now, and that's a really important part of what we're talking about. But presence is like more of a personal, interpersonal capacity. It's something we develop, and it's more than just being present. And not being present is not enough, but it's more than that. It's a real willingness to show up, as I was saying before, in our full experience, or as full experience as we can access. It's pretty addictive or attractive or something. Like when you're with someone who is present, you know that you are. That was my pathway into Gestalt, was to be in a training with a Gestalt facilitator. I didn't even know what Gestalt was, but to be in this man's presence and to see that he was in his body in a way that I could at that point never imagine being in my body. It's not charismatic in the sense of wasn't pulling for attention in a particular way. It's not mindful because mindfulness often has a sort of more internal gaze. He was just available in his body, and it was compelling. And then I wanted to know more about that. I think I was so out of my body. So yeah, I was drawn to, in that instance, to one person, but I came into a place, a school, a community where people were practicing this, where it was available. It wasn't just in this one teacher or facilitator, but it was in the school, it was in the student group, it was in the other faculty, it was, yeah. And so I don't know if that answers the question, but I think there is I came looking for this thing that I didn't know what it was, but I knew when I was in the presence of it that it was important, and I wanted something like that for myself. And I've come to realize that's pretty much what my clients and maybe students want from me. I don't need to be super clever. not particularly. I don't need to have all the answers. I don't have a kit and caboodle of tools. That's why I don't want to do demos. It's just like I just can do this thing maybe of turning up in a way that might be meaningful to somebody else. Yeah. Did that answer the question?
That sounds very easy and difficult at the same time.
Yeah, I've been doing it a very long time. I've had some very good teachers. But it's easier when you stop trying to do something else. Yeah. I was saying to someone the other day, sometimes I've stopped trying to think and think of what I'm going to say next while I'm listening and make more space to think after I've listened. And clients are usually pretty cool with that. But if they're not, what's really interesting is they say the thing that is needed. I don't need to say it. It's the quality of attention is sufficient for them to find the next thing that they would say. And I can let myself off that hook of asking the clever question or making the observation that's going to be life-changing. I just need to make space. Yeah. So I think a lot of the work of Gestalt therapy training, is training someone to enter their experience, to tolerate their experience, to see that what's happening between their skin boundary and the world is really important information. It's what's happening internally, what's happening in terms of our visceral response, our breath, our muscle tension, posture, breath, these sorts of things. These that we find comfort in our bodies and our experience. And then we're available in a way to resonate with what's happening in the space, what's happening for the other. So we can really, instead of trying to get away from our experience, we can stay with our experience, and that sets us up well to be with another in their experience, and to really find a way of holding their unique humanity, their solutions, both useful and not so useful to their life circumstance, but really holding their value. So presence is in a way that the therapist supports in themselves, so they can confirm the being of the other. And this then the cycle their attention between the client and themselves. They bring, what's happening for me as I sit here with you? What do I notice in my gut, behind my eyes? What am I thinking? What's happening energetically? And then I bring my attention to observe what's happening in the other. Really feeling into that as much as possible. It's not perfectly possible, but we can really give our attention to the other person's experience and curious. And then we come back to our own experience again, so that we can hold a grounded sense of ourself in that exchange. We call that inclusion, the sort of movement between the self and the other. In the service of the work of the client, we stay in touch with our own body experience, our breath. And that's not a clever answer to something. I think it's a way of being with that is meaningful.